Hi guys, welcome to the first live Q&A of lockdown. I'd like to present Martin Rooney, who is an ex-Fisher pupil and GB athlete. He's going to give you a bit of an introduction about himself. Over to you, Martin.
Hi Lewis, you all right? I suppose I'll start off, my name's Martin Rooney, I'm a 400 metre runner. I have been an athlete, I'm 33 now, so quite senior. I've been an international athlete since I was 18, since I left Fisher actually. My first senior world champs was the summer after I finished my A-levels, and I've been pretty much going ever since. I've been to 3 Olympics, I've been to every World Championships. Since then, I've picked up medals pretty much at every championships along the way, except from the Commonwealth. So I've had a fairly good long career. I've got one more season in me for an Olympics in Tokyo, hopefully, and then that's it. Like I can sit back and hopefully do maybe a bit of coaching or a bit of sports governance. We'll see.
That's a dream, going to coaching and sports governance. So first question, why would you suggest anyone to go to Fisher? What's unique about it?
For me, what I did, obviously at 11 years old, you don't really know. You follow your mates, and I had a mate in the year above. But what I came out of John Fisher was that it made me a more rounded person. And I think the focus on making me as a good person was probably more important than anything else. I definitely feel that with my family and with the teachers that molded me. Oh, sorry.
That's all right, that's fine.
That's still it. Yeah, with the teachers that molded me, I was given the best opportunities to become a good person, and it just set me up for a career in elite sport.
It's one thing I've certainly found since I've been there. Like, it's a very community and team vibe. It's better than any other place I've worked at, really. So I presume same as being a student there. So have you got 3 words that would sum Fisher up?
Fisher for me was a positive place. That's simple. It was something that was tough, competitive. I suppose those are the 3 things that I really remember about it.
Positive, tough, competitive. Nice. Have you got any funny moments you remember from Fisher, like throughout your time there?
One of my earliest memories. I think you're going to talk to Paul Sackey at some stage, but I remember running away from Paul Sackey once when he was like 6th form, and one of my mates, being in the year 7, rucksack bigger than us, kind of that size of kid. One of my mates was super Larry, and I remember him saying something to Paul Sackey's mate, and then we were just running away from a future England international.
Was it in school or outside of school?
It was inside of school, yeah. It was just like, it was quite light-hearted from their point of view. But I think they were like, these cheeky little sods. But yeah, like there's lots of memories of Fisher, lots of Mr. Osborne walking around in shorts in the middle of the winter, lots of great rugby tours, cross-country meets where we got to see how, I remember playing against Eton and getting changed in the opposite player's dorm. And I don't know if they still do that, but it was a bit like, oh, this is how the other half lives kind of thing. And it was definitely an experience. And yeah, just lots of very fun memories of John Fisher and the sport alongside that.
So would you say to any aspiring athletes, rugby players, cricketers, just buy into the sports program that they've got at Fisher?
Yeah, I think John Fisher has a great way of setting people up for elite sport. I think obviously competing against schools that have huge resources is it's always going to be tough, but I think it makes you a tougher athlete. It makes you a better athlete, more robust, more prepared for elite sport. I think sometimes we're not mollycoddled as much. Mm-hmm. And that's what I meant when I said it was tough. Like it was kind of like I was thrown into playing rugby, and I was a rake. I was the skinniest little kid, lanky kid. And I was encouraged to play, and I was encouraged to take part in everything that was thrown at me. And I think that kind of made me a better person and a better athlete. So I'd say just embrace it. I'd say take on the challenges. And I was very lucky that I had teammates and people in my year who were willing to go that way with me. They were willing to push themselves. So once one person starts pushing it, everybody does it as a team.
Okay. So we've spoken about Miss Toombs. Can you tell me a little bit more about her and how she helped you and in property industry?
Yeah, Miss Toombs.
Sorry.
When I first came to John Fisher, I'd already joined Croydon Harriers Athletics Club. So I had a coach as part of a training group, a very young and fun kind of group. But Miss Toombs also, she supported that. She encouraged me to play rugby and to do cross country. I think she wanted me to do more cross country, but she just went out of her way to do as much as possible for us. She drove us up and down the country to go to meets that. She gave up a lot of her free time. I remember a lot of our cross countries, the big ones, were up in Coventry and the Midlands and stuff. So she did a lot for us, and it was just like the passion for athletics was there, and cross country especially. So without her support, there was a lot of athletes. There was a lot better athletes than me who came through the cross country scene as well. And without her support and guidance, we wouldn't have been able to compete nationally.
Any other teachers that you feel possibly guided you in that elite direction that you went in, or do you think it was more Croydon Harriers, or do you think it was more your own work ethic? How do you sum that up?
I'm very fortunate. I've got a supportive family who aren't sporty, but they expect you to, if you're going to do something, you do it properly. And I think that was carried on by John Fisher. I think it was carried on by Croydon Harriers. Everybody was on the same thing of if you're going to do this, you got to do it properly. And if I'd chosen to be tried to go be a rugby player, they would push me to be as best I could be. I had people like Mr. Davis, Mr. Spall, Mr. Lydiard. They were stern, strong leaders. And I remember I had Mr. Davis and Mr. Lydiard were quite intimidating, but good men, if you know what I mean. And they encouraged me to do sport. But Mr. Spall did it in a different way. And it was just he kind of told me some truths, sometimes. So I remember trying to play rugby when I was 15, and I was just far too skinny, far too. I still couldn't tackle properly. But at that stage, I was a good county standard athlete already. So it was well, look, you've got to really think about this. What are you going to be good at? What are you going to thrive at? And actually, from then on, I started making national teams and stuff within athletics. So I was very fortunate to have those teachers in my early career and early life.
Nice. Those guys you spoke about, I suppose they're kind of like father figures at the time, away from my father sort of thing. So they're the guys that you respect at school, and if you step out of line, then those are the ones you deal with. Does that sort of
yeah. They definitely. My dad is a brilliant. He's quite a strict man as well, and sports is something that he's not really. He doesn't football, rugby. He doesn't really know anything about. He enjoyed taking us to watch rugby because he could enjoy the Guinness at Twickenham, and but he also he was supportive in the way that he took us around the country and to races and paid for spikes and stuff like that. And, but then at the John Fisher, we had teachers there who understood sport, and they kind of filled that not a void, but just they kind of had a bit more knowledge and a bit more guidance on that side of it. So I was very fortunate with the people around me.
So I've got a few questions. I put it on Instagram. A few questions from some of the boys. Some of them are really good. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's too many, unfortunately. I'll go through.
That's never a bad thing.
No, never a bad thing at all. I just don't want to. Conscious of time. One of them, it's from a Year 11 pupil. He said, "If you could change anything about your career, what would it be and why?"
I suppose if I could have changed anything, I think in 2008, I made the Olympic final and I was 21, maybe 21, 22, 21, I think. It's a long time ago now. And I felt invincible. I felt like I could do anything. And I trained, the next winter, I trained really well, but I was complacent with a lot of things. So that's something experience and wisdom tells you, if I'd have looked after my diet better, if I'd have asked more questions of different people, more experts or whatever. I think that winter I trained better than I trained the year before and I made the Olympic final. So I assumed going into the next summer I was going to win a medal, but then I picked up a major injury, and it was something that could have been avoided with a bit of, like I said, less complacency, more understanding of what it took to be an elite athlete. And that's probably something I didn't learn until I was 26, 27 years old. So it's something I wish I had learned then.
Okay. So question from me, actually. How did it feel to be named a GB athlete? And how did that process work? Did you just get an email, a phone call? Did you go for a trial?
Athletics is obviously, it's a stats-based game. Like, so you have a time, you go to a championship. So you start off at borough or county level, and then you move from county level up to national level. And I started winning lots of races. So when I was at Fisher, I'd win the Surreys, and then I won the South of England, and then I made like the national final. My first time I made nationals, I completely bricked it and came like 6th or 7th. And then the next time I won it by about a second. And it was kind of like, you just learn every year. I was learning and get better. And once you start being on the map and spotted and stuff, and your times, you keep replicating your times. It's not like a one-off time. You get called up. So I did junior internationals, and I went to World Junior Championships and European Junior Championships. And those were kind of, from then on, it just became my normal life. It was like, right, I'm an athlete. At 18 years old, I'd already been to a World Championships. I'd already picked up junior medals. It was, that was just how it is. And I had an agent, had a kit deal and stuff like that. So from quite a young age, just from running well, got those opportunities.
Funny blokes, agents. I've had some experiences with them as well.
Yeah, it's very much Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. One of the sixth formers has asked, do you have any habits that you try and keep still and that you've picked up along the way, or habits that you've changed?
Obviously, as you get older, your body changes. So there's things you have to adapt to. So, and I've got kids now. So recovery is something that I need to focus more on than anything. When I was younger, you could get away with playing PlayStation till whatever time in the morning and then get up and train the next day. It was never an issue. And now it's kind of like I find it now, like if I get lax and if I don't go to bed till like 12 o'clock, whatever, I feel it. Because at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, one of my kids will wake up, and my wife is brilliant. Like, she does most of it, and she does the early mornings, but it's just still, elite athlete needs to look after its body and needs to, I suppose its body's a temple. If you don't look after it properly, you're going to have issues. And sleep is the easiest thing that an athlete can do, and hydrate. There's two simple things that any person can do and will have a positive impact on their life. So that's a habit that I wish I'd have picked up at maybe 19, 20 years old, but it's definitely something I'd advise everyone to do now.
So you haven't been playing Call of Duty Warzone then too much?
No, look, I committed a lot of my life to Call of Duty in the past. And I think I'll have to leave that there. I kind of, if I get it again, I'll probably get addicted and I won't see my kids. So my kids are far more entertaining than Call of Duty at the moment.
Nice. Another good one from a sixth former. What is the difference between a top level athlete compared to a good level athlete? I suppose you pretty much answered that, but is there any?
I have been very fortunate. So when I was with a group in Loughborough, I was in a group of world-class athletes, I suppose. We were making world semi-finals, finals. We were picking up medals at European championships. And then I joined a group that had Olympic champions in it. And there is a difference. I don't get like there's your Premier League footballer, and then you've got Messi, Ronaldo. And that's what it was like when I joined that group. It was like, oh, so this is what it is to be an Olympic champion. This is what it is to be a world champion. This is, it was conscious, easy to see. Like I could feel the difference in being around them. It was the way that they'd interact with you at a session, the focus that they brought. It was not an intensity. It was just like, this is your job. This is what when you train with an Olympic champion, they turn up to training, they'll be funny and have a laugh. And then all of a sudden they're like, they don't know you're there. They're just carrying on with their session. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing to be around. It was inspiring and it brought the best out of me. Like I ran my PBs and I won more championships in that group than I did beforehand and after. So,
Mr. Street, so the boss, the big man, has asked, how did it feel when you were named GB captain, and what was your biggest challenge in that position?
It's an honour. Like for me as a kid, like to run for GB was huge, and even being a captain at John Fisher, in anything like cross country captain, or athletics captain, was massive. To be GB captain at a World Championships it's scary actually. Like it's something I definitely revelled in. I think it suited me, it suited my personality. I ran my personal best there, and I came away with a world medal. And it was basically the pressure to perform. There was no opportunity to just have like a bad race. It was like you have to do everything right, and you have to lead by example. And I wasn't the best athlete in the team by a long way, but when you've got people like Jess Ennis and all these other people on the team, it's kind of like these are the people I've grown up with, and they were the Olympic champions and stuff. And it was kind of, in that sense, it was amazing. But I took the role instead of trying to be like mollycoddle people, it was like, look, this is your opportunity to prove how good you are, and we have to do a team speech. So in my team speech, it was basically focusing on what you have to do. It's not about anybody else. It's about you as an individual. What can you do to be the best you can be? And try to ram that home to the team. And we actually did well. It was nothing to do with what I did, but it was our best ever world champs. So I'd love to do it again.
Have any characters to deal with in the group? Any sort of outrageous, or are they just all down to earth, very simple guys, girls?
Yeah, there is obviously characters. There's people who there was some issues within that world champs where relay teams didn't get on that well, and it burst out onto the track, unfortunately. But that's that happens in an individual sport. Like those guys will, like when you're in a relay squad, you race against those people all year, and then all of a sudden you've got to become best mates and work together. And sometimes it just doesn't work. I think that championships was the catalyst for change, and those guys, they came out and then they became world champions at the next relay, the next world championship. So for me, there was not that much of an issue. I suppose it was just about making sure I didn't piss anybody off. Sorry. Making sure that I didn't, like I said, I had to lead by example. So it was like, tried just to set the tone as best I could.
Okay. Mr. Byers, who's head of S&C now, so we've got a strength and conditioning coach, which is amazing. I don't know any other state school that has one.
Fantastic.
Fantastic job. He's asked, are there any lessons that you learnt at Fisher which helped you on your journey to success? So I presume any teachers, anything we haven't covered?
I think it was one thing was always to be honest with yourself. I think that's what I learned at Fisher. I think you get found out, especially when you play team sports and rugby and stuff. If you miss tackles and stuff like that, you've got to take ownership of that. And that's something that I definitely learned at Fisher, and I think I've always tried to carry that through. I think sometimes in my interviews I've been far too harsh, or I've been too honest about what I feel I've done wrong or whatever, and that's just, I think it keeps me grounded. I suppose it keeps it that no one can really, like when you make an Olympics or World Champs, people are criticizing you, people are ready to have a go at you, but if you can be honest to yourself, then there's nothing that anybody else can say to you. There's nothing that anybody can say that's going to make you feel any worse than you already feel. But if you try to hide and you try to BS people, then you'll get found out. Whereas if you just stand up and own your mistake, then I suppose people might not. You don't really have to worry what other people say. And I think that's something I learned from playing team sports like at Fisher.
Okay, so you basically being down to earth and being that genuine guy instead of trying to be the boss or trying to be the man in the picture sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's just taking ownership of your responsibilities. I think we have it at the moment with an anti-doping case where athletes are missing tests and they don't seem to think it's their fault, whereas this is 100% their fault. And I think that's something I learned, like I said, from just playing team sports. Like you have to take ownership. If you don't put 100% into your training session, you're not going to get 100% out of it. So you have to. It's a very basic thing that I learned very early on.
Just to round things off, you got any advice for any aspiring Fisher athletes? What you do differently, or what you suggest they do at the moment?
What would I say? That I think it's embrace the opportunities you've got at John Fisher. Like you said, there's not many state schools in the country that have an S&C coach. The facilities at Fisher are brilliant. The access to sport at an elite level from an early age is there's not many institutions like that in the UK. So whilst you're there, just take advantage of the opportunities. Yeah, I know it's going to be miserable days and it's going to be cold in the winter and all that, and you're going to hate hitting those tackles, and I made those mistakes myself. But there's you just got to take advantage and play for your team, play for your school, take pride in it. I think that's what we did. We weren't the best rugby year. There was a year above us and a year below us that were really very good, and we were pretty poor, but we still played as hard as we could and tried our best. So I think in that sense, I think just take your opportunities and try hard.
Amazing. So play for the badge, which is what any athlete or any sportsman should do. Martin, I can't thank you enough for coming on today and giving up some of your time in lockdown. That was amazing. I hope we catch up with you soon and get you to do some challenges with the boys. Have you got any last words?
Thank you very much for your time. Fisher family for life. Just keep it up, guys.
Sweet. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Lewis.